my name's Danielle Procopio. I'm your host today, and welcome to Active Aging. I'm very excited to introduce to you Joe and Rachel from Legacy Healthcare. We know that Joe was a previous guest of ours, and we got to talk about a whole lot of different things that you've got your hands in, one of which was Legacy, and so we're excited to spend our whole half hour today with both of you to talk a little bit more and find out more about what's going on at Legacy. So tell me, how has the first year been?
You know, it's the first year is always a challenge.
Absolutely.
I think where we've been blessed in a lot of ways is the way we started the business with the right intentions. We finished strong. You know, we grew, our clientele grew, our caregivers grew, and also the business grew. So it was a successful year, and we're happy.
Very happy.
A lot of businesses, unfortunately, can't say they have that positive of a first year. So you both have been very blessed, and I'm excited to hear that. And Miss Rachel, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what Legacy is for viewers that haven't seen our first episode with Joe.
Okay, well, Legacy is a non-skilled home care agency, and we go into the homes and we service as far as just taking care of meal preparation and helping if there's a spouse living with them and they need to go out and take care of some running errands or doctor's appointments and things like that, then we can go in and stay with the other spouse or whatever. Or if they live alone, sometimes they need companion care, someone to help with meals or med reminders and things like that, so that they're not. Sometimes people forget to take their medications, or they are wanting to be in their own home and they're afraid they're going to fall and they need someone to help them, with their mobility and things like that, or with showers. Sometimes a lot of older people don't like to get in and out of the shower because they're afraid they might fall also. And so that's an area where we can go in and do personal care with them. And we can also take people to a doctor's appointment if they have that type of need as well. So
perfect. I know that a lot of times people confuse home health care and kind of more the private duty side of things. And so just to clarify for viewers, so you do not provide skilled nursing services. You're providing companion care, whatever that might look like.
Yes, companion care and personal care.
Perfect.
So we don't do any of the skilled things. We don't administer medications as far as actually putting them in their mouth or feeding tubes, things like that. But we can remind them to take their medications, and we don't do bandaging, any type of medical type things. That would be on the home health side of it, the skilled side with nurses, where what we would do is just the unskilled type things, but also extremely important, as well. So for daily living.
Yeah, we categorize it as personal care and companion. So the personal care is more, where you'd be touching the client for bathing, et cetera, and companion, like everything you just said.
Yes.
And there really is such a growing need for that. We talk about this a lot on the show, but really that shift to what we're calling home-based community services. Historically, it seemed like when someone needed more of that companionship, that was the time that they went to the nursing home. Right. And now in our nursing home setting, we're seeing a much older, sicker individual, and people are trying to stay home a lot longer. But because we are working longer, we lead busier lives than we did 10, 20, 30 years ago, families are needing a lot more help in order to keep loved ones at home, and spouses, as they're aging and having their own health issues that they're dealing with. I know that help's needed. So you came into the market at a great time to help a lot of people that I'm sure are needing those services.
No, absolutely, and you definitely nailed it on the head, because the lives are busy. A lot of the clients that we've been servicing recently, the one family member will be away, one person's working. Maybe the mom or the dad's helping the other person, and it's just, too much.
Too much on one person. And sometimes you have the family member, the only close responsible family member maybe lives out of state even, or, in another township or whatever. And so they just say, I just want to make sure my mom is okay, and I worry when I'm so far away from her, during the week, and maybe they're there part of the time, but they need someone to come in and just kind of be like, it's, everything's going well, and just to have that peace of mind.
Absolutely.
And that's again, you nailed it on the head. It's the peace of mind. When our clients are out of town, they know that, okay, Legacy's there and they're looking after them. Just like the peace of mind you give your people. It's really, if someone's there, then, with the busy lives, they know that is taken care of, and it really, that's a huge benefit, is the peace of mind piece.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think something that's really important to talk about when it comes to peace of mind is your caregivers. So I want to talk a little bit more about how Legacy started, because I love your story. But before we get there, I know there's that concern of there's strange people coming into my house, and I don't know these people, and what if they go through my drawers or they take something out of my purse? And I think, I want you guys to talk a little bit about, how we protect our clients by preparing our caregivers and looking at them.
So I absolutely adore every one of the caregivers we have on our team right now, and they're handpicked, and each one of them is, I know that a lot personally about each one of them. I know a little bit about each one of them, and a lot of them are referred to us either through the churches or through someone who we know, that has sent them to us. And they really truly have a heart of compassion and genuine desire to serve and to honor God, mostly through what they're doing. And that overflow of love just comes right through into the services that they give to the clients. And then their integrity and their honesty are two of the major components of the confidence that I have in what they're doing, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that they are going to go into that home and they're going to focus on what they're doing, and they're doing it to help and to serve, and they're not in there like, what can I take, or like you were saying, like sometimes you worry about those things. But,
and I mean, we hear that all the time when we talk about bringing
Mm-hmm.
caregivers into the home, and I don't think that concern is without warranting, and so I think that regardless of what company you choose to call to bring care into the home, whether it's skilled or it's non-skilled, it's so important to ask those questions about how do you vet your caregivers, and do you do
100%.
background checks, and do they receive specialized training? And I think those are really important questions, because we do have some agencies out there that aren't doing those things.
I just had an assessment the other day, and the lady sat down, and that was one of the top questions she asked me was, do you do background checks? And then she proceeded to tell me a story of what happened with her own family member, and it was a nightmare, and it just makes your jaw drop, and the types of things that people will do, but for her, I was happy to tell her, I'm pretty positive that the people I have coming in here, first of all, we do, thorough background checks. And like I said, I do know them personally, and then also the fact that they are Christian by faith, and that they have an honesty about them. They have a standard that they are, that they put their life at, that they are not the type of person that's in it just about taking for themselves. So
Right.
And just to piggyback off what Rachel said, there are a couple things as well. We did want one of our caregivers here because, when you listen to what they say, and one of the big things they said, in conversation was, I treat them like my family.
Absolutely.
And, we do the background checks, we do training, we do monthly in-services.
Great.
So we want to make sure that, and we always say that, we want to set the standard in the non-medical home care industry.
Sure.
Because a lot of what we're talking about is why we started the business. Is, it's a vulnerable position to be in. You're letting people into your home.
Right.
There can be something, of abuse or theft, or
Absolutely.
where we say as well, which is extremely important, is one thing that separates us is, we've been in places assessing, and the caregiving company that was already in there, the caregiver walked in, sat in a chair, and got their phone out. And we say, no phones. You're engaging. You're there to serve. You're there to engage, and you're there to make sure, because sometimes that's the only connection they have.
Absolutely. And we talk a lot on our show too about socialization and the importance of that, and how isolation really affects our seniors. And and I've probably quoted the statistic at least I feel like a half a dozen times, but there was a study that showed that isolation was just as damaging to your health as smoking a package of cigarettes each day.
Oh, wow.
And when you think about that, and there's a lot of movements right now in the Mahoning Valley to help reduce isolation in our aging population. And I think that what you're saying is so critical, because if I am going to pay to bring people into my home to care for my mom or my sister or my aunt or whoever that person might be, I don't want them sitting on the phone.
Right.
I want them to help, engage her and
There's a
talk
live
with
person.
her.
There's
and-
a live person right in front of you,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
to just talk to them, to learn about their life, to tell them. I
Exactly.
encourage the caregivers to share stories about their own life, about their children or about activities in their own lives, because even if the person can't talk a lot back or doesn't have the ability to remember enough to engage with them, just that stimulation. They say when you have a little baby, talk to the baby,
Right.
engage with, the more you talk to them, the more they grow in their,
Right.
and the same thing I think with older people, if you talk to them, it's, that's showing that you care, touch,
Sure.
and that type of thing. Reflection, happiness, joy, those things are,
Oh, sure.
are reflected.
And I'm sure your caregivers are gaining a lot through that interaction as well, because, our seniors have a lot of wisdom to
They
offer
do.
us.
True.
And a lot of really entertaining stories.
Yes.
And so, one of the things that is really important is for them to share those stories and, to let people know.
To have the platform to do it, the
Yeah,
opportunity.
absolutely.
They've got so much experience in life, and I've had caregivers tell me that as well, that just since they've been working with us, they have learned so much about life, just by seeing, what this couple has been together for X amount of years, and how did they make it so long together? Because today it's so difficult for
is.
marriages, and struggles that people go through, and it's just for them to see the interaction between the two, and how you allow some things to just roll off your back, and there's certain things that are important, and just the practical aspects of how they handle their household mechanics of how they do things. You learn so much being in individual homes of people.
Yeah.
And again, treating them like their family, like it's your own grandmother or it's your own mom, and just really valuing that person and their time. So
And that's where our name was born, is exactly what you're talking about, legacy.
legacy.
They want to pass their legacy on, and that's really from the wisdom
Sure.
from their life.
Right, right.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about how the company started, because it's such a great story, and it's so different from some of the other companies that are out there. And so tell us your story, Rachel
Oh,
and
boy.
Joe, about kind of how we got to this
That's
place
his
a
fault.
year later. Well,
It's his fault.
it's a
No,
good
my
fault,
fault. Yeah,
Well,
right?
it's both
fault.
of our fault, I guess, but no, God, I think it orchestrated everything about the way that it came together, and He started 30 years ago. I'm not going to, so when I was a teenager, I was a candy striper, and people today don't even know what candy stripers are. But, my sister was a nurse, and she worked at a home health facility in Columbiana, and I was there the afternoons to spend time. And the great thing is as a teenager, a lot of teenagers today are so involved in themselves and what they're doing and what they look like and about what their friends think and their boyfriend and material things, and
Sure.
you're looking for your identity, and giving back is a way that you can learn about who you are, and you're giving, and you just feel so valued in doing that. And I was a teenager, so it was very important at that time. I think I was in the middle of 7
So
children.
what's a candy striper?
Candy striper.
Yeah.
Well, I went in and I shared with the residents. I would go down the hallways and I would pass out ice and water. I would pass out there. They had a little cart that had magazines on it, and I would go around and ask people if they wanted something to read. I would work in the activities department with the assistant activities director and help with bingo or with crafts that were going on, or if they had a music program, I would help push the clients down in their wheelchairs so that they could all listen, and help clean up messes afterwards. I'd walk
Sure.
down the halls, go sit in people's rooms and just hold their hand and talk to them. And it just, I really, my heart just broke for some of those that were so lonely. And when I was there to visit it, they didn't have family members. Some of them had consistent family members that had time or were able, and then there was others that were so lonely. And just broke my heart. This one little lady, she just hung on to me, and she didn't want me to leave, and it really made me feel like I was important to her, to be there with her.
Sure.
And for her, it was important for me to have that time to spend with her. And but I'll never forget that time in my life, and thinking about how lonely people can be, when they're in, all these people coming and going, and you have different caregivers coming and going out of your room, and
Sure.
life is going on around you, and yet they just feel so isolated in their own space. And So, fast forward, I became a caregiver myself, and I did work in that same facility. But then there was also the press for time, and you have so many things to do. And I started to understand why it was so difficult to have a fair amount of service to give that person, because you've got to get from here to there,
Right.
and you only have X amount of hours to do it. So when I started I became a mother, and I started working private care, and I absolutely loved doing that. And I took care of my own grandmother. She was 92. She was my matron of honor in my wedding.
Oh my gosh.
94. I asked her when she was 92,
Sweet.
and she said, "Well, if I'm still around, I'll do it for you." She was 94, and she walked down the aisle as my
Oh my
matron of
gosh,
honor.
what a great story.
And
Yeah.
she was like my best friend. And I promised her then, I said, you'll never be in a home. I will. And I wanted to keep her in her own home, and she did. She lived in her home till she was 97. And but anyway, so the caregiving part of it was always something that I've done. I took care of my husband's grandmother. I took care of various other patients or residents in their own homes, and I loved being there just to be able to sit with them and give them as much time as they needed, to listen to their stories, to hold their hand, to make sure that they were comfortable, to put lotion on, all those little details, pampering and things. And just very, very, very special to be able to just have that time to do that. And I did that for 20 years. And I met Joe then just up here at the YMCA in Boardman. He was working, and I was, go ahead, I'll just go for it.
So yeah, we're at the YMCA, and it was an event, and I saw Rachel walk by, and then she walked by again, and then she came up and said, "What's this all about?" So at the time, I was working for another company, and we decided it would be beneficial for both of us to meet and have coffee, so we did. And what Rachel's saying now, we broke into conversation, and a lot of what we said, in the beginning about, the caregivers going into the homes and what's happening to that population, I said, we should start a business.
Just light bulb.
So that's how it started.
Yes, we should start a business. So, and
so many people
duplicating.
have that conversation and say that same thing and never get to
Never
the
do
point
it,
that
right.
you do. They're just like, let's start a business, and
Yeah.
then move about their day. But you two acted on
I
it.
probably said, yeah, that's nice, and went home, and I'm a stay-at-home
Joe's
mom.
not
I've
like
got 5
that,
kids,
though.
No.
Joe's not like that.
Right,
Yeah.
so the phone rings the next day, and then the phone rings the next day, and let's get together and have a meeting. Let's talk about this. Let's move forward, and by I forget what, it was in the summertime, and we had the LLC, and we started putting together the plan, the business plan, and I went for some really intense training down in Florida to, put together the right policies and procedures and state-specific requirements to make sure that we had everything, to what is supposed to be defining what a home care agency is all about, and making sure that we have, what we need to really help us to do what we
Sure.
want to do. So, yeah, it was very exciting.
My fault.
So it's all his fault. So,
It's a good fault, like
it's
I
all
said.
good.
It's a good
all,
thing.
yes, and I can see God working through preparing me through the things that I did, the experiences that I had, growing up and as a
Absolutely.
young adult, and then serving with caregiving as a, as a mother. I like the fact also about it that you can. A lot of people in their own homes, it's not always 24-hour care, so you will have afternoons or you have evenings or
Sure.
sometimes you have just weekends, and a lot of the caregivers that we have are either young adults. Some of them are. We have all different range. So we have some retired older ladies that have lots of experience in caregiving, which I love. And then I've got the middle age, the ladies who have families, and which I love because they're also caregivers at home. So this is just another stage of caregiving.
Sure.
And then you have the young that are still, they're college students, or they're young people that are still learning about life, and at that stage they're so excited about what they're learning from the people that they're caring for and the value that they're giving to those people, and then in turn filling
Absolutely.
themselves with that. So
And I think that's why the partnership works so well, is, that experience that Rachel has, and then, that drive to say, let's make this happen. So, yeah, it's good.
It is good. You brought something up that I think is critical. That right now in healthcare, we're all struggling to find good caregivers. There's a huge nursing shortage. We're all looking for aides. We've got all these home health agencies and nursing homes and facilities, and we're all kind of trying to find the same group of people and kind of trying to work with them. So it's great to hear that you have a great staff that you can rely on. That seems like it's a good fit. Are you guys currently hiring? So if we have viewers that are interested, maybe they've done the caregiving and they've made that connection, but now they want to make it an employed connection.
Sure.
Are we looking for people, guys?
We are,
Absolutely.
and our we hire. Like I said, we've been hiring word of mouth and through the churches, and being a Christian agency, that aspect of it to me is extremely important. To have caregivers that have that ministering spirit about them, that faith in God, and that obedience to His word, and the way that He would want us to treat each other. And the Bible says true religion and undefiled is this, to visit the fatherless and the widow. And true religion is about loving and serving and giving, and honoring, I think honoring the elderly. The Bible talks about honor your parents. And I feel like this is a way that we can truly honor them, and to honor other people's parents. And they work so hard in their lives to have the things that they have, and for them to be able to be in their own home and to be treated with the utmost respect, I think is critical. So for them to have that comfort, and to feel like they still have a say about what's going on in their lives. And that's the other area that I really love about our company, is that we are a private pay company, and it puts them in the driver's seat. They make the decisions. They say, I want these hours. These are the things I want done. And it's they're the boss. And I think that it's so many times in the medical side of things, and insurances can be so scary and confusing, and what can you do and what can't you do, and what do you qualify for, and you have to wait for this and that, and the doctor's signature and all these things. And we're just there to say, what do you want us to do when we come to your house? And okay, we'll do that. Write it down. And that's, there is no locked contract that says you have to have this or that. It's whatever they need.
Very good.
So,
do you guys have a minimum number of hours that I have to commit to get care?
we don't.
Okay.
Ideally, it's always, if you have someone driving out to your place, you want to make it valuable for them as well as for you. You want to make sure that you have that security of knowing that person is going to be able to come also, because there are people that have higher demand amounts of time and things like that. And so depending on the availability of the caregiver, sometimes they have they have certain shifts or not requirements, but budgeting issues that they're also working on.
Right.
But we do try to work as best as we can with, if it's 2 hours or if it's 5 hours, and sometimes we've done overnights.
Yeah.
So,
and that's good to know, though, because there are a lot of companies that have that minimum. You have to promise us that you're going to do a minimum of 2 hours for X number of days for so many weeks, and so maybe I only need you twice a month, and it's only for several hours each time.
And I just had a conversation this morning with a lady, and she said, I don't need you till the 20th, and I need 4 hours, and then in February, and it's like, that's fine, whatever you want, and I'll just make sure I get it on my calendar, and so she knows when she goes out that someone will be there, and she can be comfortable knowing that her husband is safe. So
how about how much notice do you need for a shift?
I just had that question too.
Yeah, just so that way if our viewers at home were jumping to call you, I want them to kind of have a realistic idea of this is how many hours Legacy needs for us to get on the calendar with them.
So there is
stuff we have to do to coordinate.
There's paperwork, there's administrative, things that we have to do, and so once we get the initial intake out of the way, I've done within 3 days. If I know, and if I have somebody available, and I usually work it so that I can, and I tell people if I know I'm going to have next week covered, but you need somebody in 2 days and I don't have a caregiver, you're looking at her, because every opportunity I get to serve, I'm happy to do it myself. So even if I do have staff that is willing and ready, to go into homes and to take care of people.
And that's not ideal. Ideally we would like at least a week, so that we could, but we are willing to make sure. If you need us, we're going to do our best to make sure.
And I always like to call people on Wednesday the week before and say, look, I'm doing my scheduling for next week.
Right.
And so if I just know a week in advance, even I set my schedule every week, so I can usually work with them that way. But I have had emergency cases where I've had
Perfect.
to do that.
And I
so.
think that sometimes is a surprise for our clients, is that a lot of times, it's our culture is very instantaneous.
Right.
And so just to kind of help our clients understand that, when you call, there is a lot of behind the scenes work that
Yes.
needs done. We do need to get all that information collected and do that intake process. And then you have to kind of play that jigsaw puzzle of a
Right.
schedule
Right.
because they're
That's
not the only
fun.
client
That's
you're
a lot of
seeing.
fun.
Sure. And you've got multiple caregivers with multiple needs because
Right.
they only have certain days and times
Right.
they can work. So, if Legacy ever says that we can't do something immediately, we just want people to understand.
No,
the
appreciate that.
Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
a lot to it, and
Yes.
I couldn't really appreciate it until I came to work with
Yes.
private duty. On the employment
yeah.
side.
On the-
Once
on
you're
the
there,
initial-
it's a totally different
Yeah, it is.
purview than what you had is when you were sitting at
Right.
home trying to understand why can't this work out.
Right.
So
yeah, there is things like that have to be taken care of initially.
Sure.
So at least a number of days just to get it set up. And a lot of times, if I know someone that is thinking about using our services, I'll say it would be good to get that out of the way, even if you don't need us until next month. So we had one case where that happened, and I went in and I did the conversation, and I just put the paperwork in the file, and I said, okay, now when you call us, we'll be ready for you. So I had it all set up.
And that's so important because we find that people wait too long. They wait and wait and wait and wait, and then they finally say, "Okay, I need you," and it's too late then. And we have gotten the call. Could you come tonight? And like I
Yeah.
said, we'll do our best.
of course.
But I think like what you're saying, for people to have that perspective, if they're thinking about it,
Just
it's
call
best to
and
reach
start
out.
it.
Get
Sure.
it set up.
Yeah.
Get it set up because that's always it's best to think ahead. And a lot of, like you said, people just want everything right now, and you have to kind of prepare, get all that stuff out of the way. So
We've had people that got to the point where they're absolutely exhausted
Right.
before they call us in.
Right.
And by that time, it's too late.
Yeah, and I think that's most of the services, the aging services that are in place, whether it's a facility or it's home care or private duty, they all come into the picture typically when there's been some type of incident or emergency.
Right.
And so I think if we can think about those things a little bit sooner and start researching a little bit sooner, you'll already have that peace of mind of kind of where you're going and who you need to call when something happens. And then
Right.
Rachel will be ready to go to get you on the schedule.
Yes.
Whereas sometimes when we're in reactionary mode, we can't get
Sure.
things the way we would have liked for them to be because now
My
we're just in
mother-
reaction.
My mother had a knee surgery recently, and she said, "I should have done this years ago."
Right.
They waited, and then when she did it, she said, "Why didn't I do this before?" So yeah,
Well, hindsight's always 20/20.
2020, and it's 2020 now, right?
That's right.
Use your
it is.
hindsight.
There you go. Well, I know that we're just about out of time, so before we leave our viewers today, I just wanted to make sure that we share with them how they can reach out to you guys.
all right, so they can call our office at 234-759-3303, or they can come by North Lima. We're in the old South Range School on the second floor, Legacy Christian Home Care. And we have an email address. It's rjack.legacychristian@gmail.com or
Leadership.legacychristian@gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you both joining me today.
we have a Facebook page as well. So just want to get that
Also
in there.
on Facebook.
Look
We're
us
all
up
on Facebook.
Right.
Very
so
good.
Look up Legacy on Facebook.
Well, thank you for joining us
Thank
today,
you
guys.
for having
of
us.
course,
Thank you.
anytime. And we appreciate you joining us as well. So until next month, we hope you have a great day.